I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Butterbeer Banter, the spin-off podcast from Tales from Godric's Hollow. This is the second Butterbeer Banter. This is round 2. I am one of your hosts. I am the muggle of the show, Josh Brown. I am joined by the fantastic professor himself, Matt Sonnenberg.
How are we doing tonight, Josh?
Beautifully, Matt. Beautifully. I couldn't come up with anything snazzy tonight. I didn't have it in me.
That's okay. However, I do think we might have to call you the No Match tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. For those of you that may be new to the podcast, Butterbeer Banter is a spin-off episode of our normal format. This allows us to talk about other things related to Harry Potter without bogging down the normal weekly show that we do too much. You know, we add some banter into those episodes to spice it up a bit, but some topics deserve more than we could give it in a regular show, and that's how Butterbeer Banter was conceived. Butterbeer Banter was actually, this is a little behind the curtains for you, a name we were tossing around for the name of the podcast to begin with. And it seemed a little too casual for what we were going for. Matt settled on Tales from Godric's Hollow. I couldn't say one way or the other because I know nothing about Godric's Hollow, where it is.
But I mean, you have to admit that we brought these names up to a couple of people, and
that's true.
Time and time again, they jumped on Tales from Godric's Hollow. Yeah. So
I appreciated Butterbeer Banter because I had at least tasted a butterbeer.
It's true. That's something you knew of Harry Potter.
Yeah, and it was something that was near and dear to my heart because they are delicious. Also, the alliteration made me warm inside. So while I didn't have enough pull to make it the actual name of the podcast, I insisted we use it in some form or fashion. And here we go. This is how we're using it, for better or for worse, I should say. The first Butterbeer Banter we talked about the documentary that you can watch on Netflix called Mudbloods, which follows around the UCLA Quidditch team. That's correct. Actual Quidditch played at an actual college here in the United States. Fantastic documentary. You turned me on to it. I watched it. I fell in love with it. I watched it twice, actually, and immediately felt like I needed to talk about it. And that's kind of how the first Butterbeer Banter came to be. And now we're going to try to do it more regularly. We're in an era, Matt, where Harry Potter is back.
He is back.
I don't know necessarily if it was ever gone.
Although it's kind of weird to say, like, we keep referring to it as Harry Potter. Like, I do it all the time. Mm-hmm. But in all reality, the new content that's coming out has nothing to do with Harry Potter. Like, Harry Potter is not going to be in these new films that are coming out.
Right.
It is well before his time. So
the Wizarding World, I should say.
Yes, it was born around Harry Potter, and so that's how everybody knows it. Sure. Because I mean, if you look into other literature and film and stuff, there are other Wizarding worlds, you could say. Maybe none quite as large and fleshed out as Harry Potter.
I don't know. Middle Earth is pretty big.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I would call that a Wizarding world. Like, okay, there are wizards in it, but the main folks you follow around most of the time are hobbits.
Sure.
And they're not magical.
No, but they're hilarious. They're guided by a wizard, though.
Sure. So I mean, yeah, there is magic in there from time to time, and I can see you arguing that, but
I'm not going to die on that hill. Don't worry.
Yeah, just Harry Potter is the biggest Wizarding World. Like, even just the term Wizarding World.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've used it a number of times in marketing and such.
Yeah.
So it's kind of associated with Harry Potter as well. But there's just no one else I would associate it with.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, you say Wizarding World. Obviously, it has a very distinct meaning to the people in the know. But it's also one of those phrases that will take a second for you to place what you're talking about specifically, where you say the world of Harry Potter, and there's no question about what we're talking about here. You know?
Sure. Yeah, that's the direct reference as opposed to the indirect reference where you have to make that one connection over Harry Potter yet.
I mean, even me, the Nomad, before we started this podcast, you said Harry Potter. I at least knew what you were talking about. I didn't have any reference points, but if you had said to me Wizarding World, that would have meant nothing. So,
Yep, I gotcha.
Regardless, there's lots of things going on here. Harry Potter, it's himself. I don't. Is he in? You're not going to answer that. Cursed child. I don't know. Maybe he's back. Maybe he's not. I have no idea. I know there's a new book out. I have no idea if it actually even relates to Harry Potter in any way, shape, or form.
It's part of the Wizarding World.
Yeah, well, let's just say that. But I mean, we have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's now a movie that you could see, as opposed to just a textbook that at first you read about it being a textbook and then you were able to read the book. Allegedly, I can't confirm or deny that. But we're getting like Harry Potter in video games, a resurgence of Harry Potter video games, new books. There's just all this stuff that's happening within this franchise that we are experiencing and we would like to talk about, is what it comes down to. Because let's face it, you're kind of a geek for Harry Potter. Like, that's
absolutely
nothing wrong with that. And I'm falling in love with Harry Potter every single day, more and more so. So I'm trying to just consume everything I possibly can. For those that know my struggles and how hard it is to avoid Harry Potter related things in order to not be spoiled for my journey, it's been difficult. So when you, Matt, give me the green light to just go all in on something, especially something that's brand new, I don't waste that opportunity. And that's what happened with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. You pre-screened it for me. You had some concerns that it might possibly have something in the movie that I might make connections to.
Yeah.
And
I mean, because going into it, we didn't know the full depth of the plot.
Right.
Like, we knew there were going to be lots of Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
But then it was only like a week before the actual release, we got this big reveal that, oh, this person is going to be in the movie, and it's actually makes a connection to the series we already know, and that set off alarms all over in my head. like oh boy, how much of a connection are you going to give him? Like, what are you going to tell him? Are we going to have weird like flash forwards or something that are going to, like, I don't know. It would be weird, but
you weren't sure how much liberties they were going to take with the story as far as connecting a very popular and well-known franchise to something kind of new and refreshing.
Yep.
But you watched it, you gave me the green light, and I couldn't have been more excited to go see it, which I eventually did on Thanksgiving Day. So we are going to talk about the film. We are going to break down this movie. I want to give everybody the opportunity right now that if you have not seen this film, you should probably stop listening to this podcast. We appreciate the download. We appreciate you getting this far, but if you've yet to see it and you still have plans to do so, just save yourself the headache, because I'm going to tell you, we are going to talk about everything. So,
It's true.
Then again, if you don't mind spoilers, if you want to know everything that's going on, stick around. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what you can do. You have the opportunity to do so. I will say this before I bid anybody adieu here. If you're looking for a recommendation, I will save you the agony of trying to scrub forward and pick a spot to where I give my shining 2 thumbs up approval, because I absolutely love this film, and I highly encourage anybody out there that's listening to see this movie. If you're a fan of the series at all, I can't give it enough praise and recommendation. Matt, would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely would recommend it to anybody that's a fan.
Sure. So there you have it. If you haven't watched the movie, go do so. This podcast will stay in your feed as long as you possibly want it to. So you could go back and listen to this after you see the movie. I promise it'll still be there. But Matt, let's go ahead and start talking about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Now, my opinion of the movie, it may go in line with how you thought about it, but I feel like we're on 2 different pages. We're coming from 2 different places.
Very true.
This is something new that's added into your world that you've already adopted as your own, that you've fallen in love with many years ago, that you're very probably protective of.
Sure.
You don't want to see it torn apart just to make a quick buck on a movie.
Yeah.
There's a legacy there that I'm sure you're very protective of, and you don't want to see it, that legacy tarnished in any way. So for you to say you like the film, that's good. That's very good. For me to say that I like the film, I come from a different place, because right now I'm so excited for like anything Harry Potter, and I went into it knowing that I was going to be seeing a new movie at the same time as other people who have been fans of the series for over a decade.
Yeah.
And that was exciting for me, because now I was able to be a part of the conversation instead of having to wait so many years afterwards to make up my own conversation in my head about it. So I was just jazzed to see this movie. I don't know how the movie could have been bad enough for me to not like it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, because you were telling me for weeks beforehand how excited you were.
Yeah.
To be able to experience this with the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so going in with that mindset, it just like you were. I think if it were so bad that you actually thought it was bad, or you were disappointed by it,
yeah,
like that, it would have had like been really bad.
It would have been an utter train wreck. I mean,
yeah,
you would have had to see like
bad.
camera booms, like in shots. They would have had to completely eliminate every Fantastic Beast in the movie. False advertising.
They're like hand puppets. It's like, look at this Fantastic Beast flying around on my arm.
Yeah, they would have had to go to great lengths for me to be super upset about it. No, there was a chance that I wasn't going to dig it. I wasn't going to like the characters. But like I think I just went in with such a high that I'm glad that by the end of the film it was still there, and even more so, I was even more excited about what I had seen than I was going into it. So just to throw that out there, we are coming from 2 different perspectives, even though we both really enjoyed the film. I think we enjoyed them for different reasons. So to set up this film, I guess I need to defer to you a little bit, because you know far more about this than I do. So there's a book called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. That's a textbook that they use at Hogwarts.
Yes.
But that was also translated into a real book that you can buy and read, correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Well, there are actually 2 books now, I believe, that bear the name Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Mm-hmm.
The first is one that came out. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but it came out in the first cycle of Harry Potter. It was a short book. I mean, it couldn't have been more than, like, I don't know, 30 pages or something probably. And honestly, it read more like an encyclopedia.
Okay.
Of Fantastic Beasts. So it still had interesting information.
Mm-hmm.
If you were into the world, but it just to, like, sit down and read as a book, if you were expecting like a novel, no, that there wasn't really a story to it.
Okay.
It was just a glossary of Fantastic Beasts. And at that, I mean, just a couple dozen of them that some we had heard about, some may have been first mentioned in that book, but still, like I said, interesting if you're interested in the topic.
Right.
The second one that just came out recently is actually I don't know how I feel about this, how they've been doing this lately. So actually, the Cursed Child,
Mm-hmm.
They released that as a book. Like it was written as a Broadway play.
Okay, right.
And the book they released is just the screenplay.
Okay.
So it's like there's a story to it, but they didn't really, like, turn it into story form. What you're reading is the screenplay.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's what they did then with Fantastic Beasts as well. I haven't actually read this one, so I don't know exactly how it looks like.
Okay.
But from what I've heard, it's I mean, the screenplay of the film, kind of, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the written version of what we saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's still written like the actors might be reading it.
Okay.
For their job. I
Sure.
don't think it was really turned into novel form of the movie.
But regardless, it is a story telling the story of the characters that we saw, as opposed to just kind of a glossary of Fantastic Beasts.
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. So this movie takes place in the USA, the greatest country of them all. New York City, to be more specific.
Not my favorite city, but okay.
Have you been?
Once.
Okay.
Recently.
Oh, that's right. On your trip. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. On our way out to Boston to meet you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this takes place in 1926.
It does.
So many years before the events of Harry Potter and his wonderful happy-go-lucky adventures at Hogwarts.
Yep.
The main character, Newt Scamander.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, Matt, that I absolutely love Newt more than I could possibly imagine.
And I am very glad to hear that, because something I don't usually do, but before I went to see the movie, I did kind of glance through some of the reviews that had been written, and people were ripping on the characters.
Really?
Yeah, Newt in particular. It's like, yeah, this main character that we're supposed to love, and like, no, I honestly didn't have a problem with him.
Sure.
And he was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
He has quirks, and I understand why some people don't necessarily like him, but to say that, like, he almost ruined the movie or something, like, nah, you're going too far with that.
Okay, so I loved him for many reasons.
Sure.
He definitely strikes me as an introvert.
Yep.
He's not loud and audacious. He doesn't like to make a scene. He keeps to himself. He is a Hufflepuff, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because honestly, we haven't met many Hufflepuffs in our readings so far, so I'm not quite sure how to categorize the house that I proudly belong to, Matt.
Sure.
But when I think Hufflepuff, and then I see Newt Scamander and like how he just kind of acts around other people, I just, it makes sense, you know. I kind of seem to relate to him because I feel I struggle with really bad anxiety. I get incredibly anxious in many different situations. Many social situations really bother me, and it's tough for me a lot of time, and it's something that I'm working through, and always trying to persevere through, and you know, end up okay for. But Newt kind of, I see a lot of myself in his actions, where he doesn't want to bother people. He kind of just wants to be left alone to do his own thing. If he bumps into somebody, like, he feels like it's his fault regardless if it is or not, you know. And it's just like, he's quiet. He gets nervous. He doesn't want to be confrontational if he could avoid it at all possible. But he's very determined to do what he has his mind set on. And in this film, he is dead set on getting to Arizona. Yep. Which, you don't hear Arizona talked about very often in film.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the destination route of many road trip movies or anything like that. So it was, every time he said that he was going to Arizona, I had to actually convince myself that he was saying Arizona, because it just felt weird that he was going to Arizona, you know?
Yeah, it kind of took me by surprise too. Like, I didn't think about it. I wasn't expecting Arizona to pop up.
Yeah.
Of all places. Like, I mean, his reasoning for going there, it totally made sense.
Sure.
But it, like, it's one of those things. We're in 1926 New York, and I don't have my history down well enough to know, okay, when did Arizona become a state?
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the first things that crossed through my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, Arizona existed?
Right.
Like, we're in these early 20th century, you know, close enough to the 18th or 19th century U.S.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, yeah, everybody lived on the East Coast. What are you talking about, Arizona?
Right. The railroad's just getting out there. I mean, it was a state, sure, but it was not inhabited. There was not a big population in Arizona, which made sense why he was going out there, because he wanted to release his pet Frank. Or was it?
Oh, that's a good question. Keep talking and I'll find out.
I want to say it was Frank. I don't know what kind of creature it is. I don't know if the creature was specifically named by what breed it was. But I want to say he kept calling him Frank, and that's the only name that stuck out.
Well, it was the Thunderbird.
Oh, okay. Did he say Thunderbird?
Yeah.
Oh.
They mentioned that a couple of times.
See, okay. I'm really bad with British accents. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So even Val will attest to this. Like, I struggle listening to British accents.
Well, I will give you a pass here in particular, because that's something I did notice throughout the film. There were a number of times where I kind of wish I wasn't in the theater,
mm-hmm.
and I could have hit the rewind button 10 seconds and say, wait, what did you just say?
Right.
Or go back, turn on the subtitles, and say, okay, let's try that again.
Yeah.
Because it unless they repeated things, which I mean they don't necessarily a lot. I mean that's not normal.
Sure.
It there were a couple times I thought that they let the British accent through a little too much.
Yeah.
Like in the Harry Potter films, yeah, they have a British accent, but you can understand them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very mainstream. But like when I watch like Doctor Who, I
Sure.
have a hard time picking up some of the lingo, especially when they start talking extremely fast. I get lost and just words start mushing together, and I'm not 100% confident that I know how the accent is making a specific word sound. So I'll start to kind of make up my own words sometimes, or try to place in words I think they're saying, and then it doesn't make sense, and then I get lost because 2 sentences later I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Sure.
And Newt has the actor that played Newt, a very specific way that he speaks. It's kind of a mumble.
Yeah.
He doesn't enunciate very well.
And I think that's just his character.
Sure, no, absolutely.
He's because, like you said, he's so introverted, not necessarily good in social situations. He's not a public speaker. He hasn't studied or tried to perfect that part of his personality. It's
Sure.
it's just that's who he is, and why probably part of the way why he is
Right.
that way.
So couple that with the British accent. If he said Thunderbird at some point, I definitely didn't hear Thunderbird, but that kind of actually makes sense for like his abilities, as
Yep.
he seems to summon thunderclouds and storms and whatnot. So
Yes, and for just to clear it up, his name was Frank. Yes.
okay. I did pick up on Frank, and I thought that was hilarious that he was calling this giant creature just Frank. Like it seemed like such a basic name, you know.
It almost seemed too American to me.
Yeah, a little bit. But he was from Arizona, so
Was he from Arizona, or just he figured that'd be a good place to release it?
I
Because
thought that he said he was returning him to Arizona.
I thought he originally picked him. Didn't he say he picked him up in Africa?
Man, I don't know.
Yeah. He. Oh well, okay. He rescued him from Thunderbird traffickers in Egypt
Okay. But where'd they get him from?
and promised to return him to his natural habitat in Arizona.
Aha! So he is an Arizona native. Frank from
so.
Arizona.
Yes. But as far as we know, Newt named him, so
Sure.
like he didn't tell him, "Oh, my name is Frank."
No,
He
but
didn't have
Frank's like, hey, what's a
wasn't
good
wearing a
Arizona
collar.
name? So that kind of sets up this movie. That's why Newt shows up into New York City. He comes over from England, and he's going to make his journey to Arizona via New York City. But he doesn't really get out of New York City, does he?
No, he kind of gets stuck there.
Yeah. And that's when we start meeting the other characters of this film. We met Tina.
Yep.
Who's a fellow, I guess she'd be a witch, right?
Yep.
Okay. I have a hard time, like, assigning males to wizards and females to witches, you know?
Sure.
Like, it's still, I know in this world, like, that's how it is.
Yep.
But there's still kind of, like, a derogatory meaning behind witch.
Sure. Yeah. Especially when we get here to America and they start talking Salem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Witches, evil. But yeah, me personally, I guess I've always, I always kind of think of wizard as a gender neutral term.
Yeah.
And so I refer to everybody as wizards. Like,
right.
Yeah, they're a wizard. And that's fine. They can do magic. They're a wizard.
Yeah.
But the more I'm rereading like the original series and such, I see that J.K. Rowling does very much refer to witches and wizards when she's referring to different genders.
Yeah.
So
So either way, whatever. So we met Tina. That's pretty much like the other main character of the film. She works for the U.S. branch of I don't know. What's the official? I could. What's the official name of it, Matt?
The Makusa.
Yeah, the Makusa.
That's what you're going for.
Yeah, which is
the Magical Congress of the United States of America.
Yes, which is the equivalent of the
Ministry of Magic.
There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. And then her sister Queenie.
By the way, I hate that name.
Yeah, it's not a name that sounds right. It's a nickname to me, you know.
And like, I kind of wonder if it is a nickname. I don't know if we actually got her full name in the movie, because even Tina, that's a nickname.
Yeah.
Her I don't know. I'm trying to remember if like she was introduced before the film. Like we knew who the main character is going to be, so we had full names. But in the film itself, I don't know if they actually gave her name, and if they did, it was probably just once, because it's Porpentina. Like, yeah, who's gonna call her that?
Oh, really? That's actually her official name?
Yeah, Porpentina.
Oh, yeah. I don't ever remember hearing that in the name.
Yeah. So it's like no one's gonna call her that. Yeah,
right.
She's gonna go by Tina.
Yeah.
I would too. I would completely ignore my full name. I would change my name to Tina.
Yep, absolutely. But Queenie, we never heard of any other name, right?
No, once again, not in the film, and I think every time I've seen her, it's been Queenie. Of course, I'm gonna check this now, but as far as I can find right now, yeah, it's just listed as Queenie everywhere.
Okay,
there is no other name given.
Sure. For me, Queenie was a nice surprise because I wasn't really expecting there to be another strong female character, especially like the sister of Tina. I don't know what I expected, but like she when we first met her, I thought she was gonna have like that scene and be done.
Yeah.
But she played an integral part of the entire story all the way through, which I absolutely loved. I'm so glad that we didn't meet her and then she's gone.
Yep.
Which easily could have happened.
Easily, yeah, definitely. I think part of it is we've gotten so used to in the Harry Potter series having the trio, as we always refer to them. So in this film, by the time we meet Queenie, I think we already have a trio of Newt, Tina, and Jacob.
Right.
It's like we could just follow them around for the entire movie and have plenty to talk about.
Sure.
But yeah, they kind of looped Queenie in there, and she stuck around for a while.
Yeah, and Queenie kind of became the third part of the trio because Jacob, as we meet Jacob, and for me, Jacob Kowalski, fantastic character, just beautifully well done character. My problem is the entire time I was watching him, I was remembering that actor in Balls of Fury. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
I think I've seen it once.
Okay.
I
About
can't
the ping
remember
pong
a
master.
lot from it, but yeah.
It's such a ridiculous character, and the actor that plays him is just so good at that kind of comedy that seeing him in this was, I had to retrain myself to accept him as somebody else. But Jacob Kowalski, he is a nomad.
Yes.
Or what we would normally refer to as a muggle. I need to tell you this, Matt.
Yeah.
I do not like the term nomad.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of it.
No.
I wasn't from the time it was introduced. Like that, once again, that was a term that J.K. Rowling let out prior to the movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it going in. I think we've discussed this off air, but like by the time we were done with the movie, like it was okay, it was acceptable, but like just in the circumstances they used it, like as they used it more, it had a little bit of a flow to it, but I don't know, it just feels like, yeah, maybe that's a term you use at first, but it's quickly going to turn into, someone's going to come up with a different term, and
Sure.
that's what should stick.
Yeah. I mean, even Newt was like taken back by it. He's like, no, we use Muggle. And
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, you would think there'd be enough influence coming from Europe that, because that's where they came from originally.
right.
And I'm sure whoever left Europe was originally calling non-magical folk Muggles.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't that stick over here in America?
Because America likes to change things and Americanize it until it's their own. And that's exactly what nomad sounds like.
They need
me.
to change it again.
Yeah. Muggle is a good mouth word. Like, it feels good to say. It's aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't sound harsh or abrasive.
I mean, I think one of the worst things is nomad is hyphenated.
Yeah. Oh God, don't even get me started on actually writing it out. Like,
I read places where people try to pluralize it then, and it's like no mages, and it's like majes. I'm like, no.
yeah, it's like
that
moose. There's
doesn't
just
work.
yeah, nomad's just, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't look right. It's like you said, by the end of the film, it was acceptable, but still, like, Muggle is the way to go.
Yep.
So, as far as USA being the destination spot for all of this, and my excitement level for it being in the US, like, that's the one disappointment I had with it being based in America, is the American changes they had to make in the wizarding world for whatever reason, Yep. I think it was also very directly kind of like shots fired by J.K. Rowling. Like, like, she's making it. Did she write the screenplay or help write it?
Oh yeah. She as far as I know, she wrote this whole thing.
Yeah. So this was definitely like kind of a cheap shot at us Americans. Like, look how dirty and ugly your words are compared to the beautiful British language. So.
Although, on the flip side of that, I once watched an interview where someone asked her, it's like, like, your stuff's, most popular in America because that's, where they get the most sales and all that stuff. And people, pronounce your last name Rowling. And like, so is it Rowling or Rowling? And it's like, well, it's Rowling, but I respond to either. And to be perfectly honest, Rowling is kind of an awful word, so I kind of don't mind that they switched over to Rowling.
Sure.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She actually prefers the American version there. So
weird.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So those are the characters. Jacob continues to be a nomad throughout the entire film. At the end of it, I think it was a scene I didn't want to happen, Matt.
Yeah.
I was pulling for him the entire time because he took the introduction to magic very well, I thought. He didn't freak out and panic and like try to call the cops and try to. He was just like, okay, I'm going with it. Like, whatever. I don't even know if this is real or not, but I'm just gonna, whatever you say, Newt. He was accepting of it, I guess, and wanted to be a part of it so much, even though he wasn't magical in his own right. So the last scene, or one of the last scenes, where they had to obliviate. Now, is obliviate a term that is used in the franchise proper?
Absolutely.
Okay. We haven't got to that at all, have we?
Well, we end of the second book when shoot. We just covered this. Who's the professor's name? Lockhart. He he basically admitted to obliviating a bunch of people's memories.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Because I know he had memory spells, but I didn't remember if he used the term obliviate.
I'm trying to remember right now offhand what's the exact spell he tried to use on Ron down in the chamber, and that might have even been like that. I believe the generic spell to do it is just obliviate.
Okay. Is that also what they had to use when Ron and Harry stole the car and Muggle saw it flying in the air?
Oh yeah, they obliviate Muggles all the time.
Sure, but did they specifically say that? Because remember they're talking about how they had to cover it up.
I don't know if they actually mentioned it there.
Okay.
But yeah, more and more obliviate will actually come into the series.
Okay.
So it's something longtime fans have known for a long time.
Okay. So I kind of knew it was probably a thing. I mean, I'm also familiar with Men in Black. I know how this memory erasing thing happens.
It's very, very similar to Men in Black in the fact that they erase their memory and then they have to give them a new memory to explain what happened. The same thing happens in the magical world. Yeah,
and it's not harmful. It's instantaneous, and they kind of just wake up feeling like they just woke up from a deep sleep type of thing, and they're not really sure what's going on. So like the entire movie, Jacob was such an important part of everything kind of happening the way it did, and he became friends with Newt, which I thought was a big thing because Newt again didn't seem to have many, if any, friends at that point.
Not in America, especially.
Right, and for him to kind of embrace Jacob, I think even said it towards the end, like Jacob thought that he was obliviating him because he just needed him, and then he was kind of done with him, and he was like, no, like, you were my friend, like, you are my friend. I like you as a person. That was a big thing for Newt to admit. So to see Jacob obliviated, like, it broke my heart. It did.
Yeah.
Like, he was having this budding relationship with Queenie, which was fantastic because she could read his mind, and it freaked him out. Like, he was totally creeped out by it, but at the same time, he's like, hey, if that's going to happen, then we're going to go all the way with this type of thing. It was just fun to see them develop this relationship as somebody that she knows that she can't fall in love with. He knows that it's probably not going to last because he definitely doesn't deserve her. And they just, continue to start falling in love until he has to be obliviated and all wiped away. But may not be a fully permanent thing. They kind of hinted at.
Yeah, they kind of hinted there were still remnants possibly of what he knew at one point or who he knew. Those memories were in there yet.
At least feelings.
Yeah. Something seemed to still be there.
Yeah.
That could easily crop up in another movie then.
Right. So let's talk about my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think I fell in love with this film, just top to bottom. We got to talk about the Beast, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. For those of you that have been listening to the podcast from day one, you know that I have fallen in love with many magical creatures throughout the first two books. It's just something I am clinging to, whether it be gnomes in the garden or a giant squid living in the lake near Hogwarts. Like, I am absolutely fascinated by these magical creatures.
Yeah. Every time we run across a magical creature in the book, it's like, Josh is going to bring this up this week.
Then we have this movie, Matt, and it's just top to bottom most absurd, amazing, mind-blowing creatures you could possibly think of.
Yep.
Starting off with the Niffler.
Sure.
The Niffler is amazing. I was laughing so hard at this little rodent scampering around, stealing anything shiny he could get his little paws on, shoving it in his pouch. Hilarious.
His endless Mary Poppins bag pouch.
Oh, that was the best part, because the whole time I'm thinking, okay, his pouch should be like just hanging over, just gold spilling out of it. But you didn't really see that. So there was a chance that maybe he was hiding it somewhere else, taking it and moving it. Then Newt grabs him by the legs and shakes him upside down, and it just dumps out of him.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of my favorites when he tried to like shove that like gold bar into his pouch. And I'm like, okay, that bar is bigger than your pouch. It's about half the size of your entire body. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. But he fit it in.
Yeah. I just love the Niffler so much. Like, that's such a crazy little creature. What else? Boy.
I can tell you one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Is the Bowtruckle.
The Bowtruckle, yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Newt had like his pet Bowtruckle that didn't want to leave.
Yeah. Because the other ones picked on him for Newt playing favorites with him.
Yeah.
Just riding in his pocket the whole time.
But yeah, best way to pick a lock ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to see more with the Bowtruckles.
Sure.
We met a mobster goblin. Right?
We did.
Was he a goblin? He was a goblin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty sure.
Goblin gangster. Played by Ron Perlman. Perfect voice for it.
Yeah, and just the way that they put that together, like it was his face.
Yeah.
But obviously not his body.
Right.
Because he's not a little person. He's,
sure.
But when you saw his face, it's like, I know you.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yep.
And yeah, it just worked out so well.
Yeah. I wanted more from that scene because I don't think we got enough of him.
Well, I think that more than anything kind of epitomized what a lot of people, including myself, think of when you think 1920s New York.
Yep.
Or 1920s anywhere, really.
Absolutely.
Like it just that bar scene with the music and all that stuff, like that's the 20s.
Yeah, the speakeasy. You got to have a password to get in. And just perfect. And like couple that with the Bowtruckle, so much good things happening in that scene.
Yeah, because it was the 1920s we know, but then like set in a magical universe.
Yeah.
It had all the magical elements in it, but it's like, yes, this is the way the magical world lived too in the 1920s.
Yeah, they had their own nightclub where they could be themselves without having to hide it. And
but like it almost reminded me a little bit of the cantina in Star Wars.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You walk in and you see all these different creatures, and it's like, wow, well, what is going on here?
Yeah, and it's not unusual to anybody that's in there because you got to be in the know first off to even get in there. So, really well done. We also had the giant snake dragon thing. I don't remember. Did that have a name?
It probably did.
Or I mean, that type of animal, did we have a breed name at least, or it hatches from silver eggs. I know that much.
Yeah, like all the main creatures, we saw more than once.
Yeah,
they had names. I just haven't fully learned them all yet.
Sure.
I assume we'll be seeing more of some of them, or just popping up in the media. I'll be able to learn them, or when I get this movie and I'll be watching it nonstop over and over.
Right. Alchemies?
It's possible.
Yeah, because they call them alchemy eggshells.
Yeah.
So, which I thought that was, they were cute seeing them small, in the nest. Newt was calling himself Mama to them, like super adorable. But then, when one hatches in the Muggle world, we learned that they grow or shrink to fit whatever they are in.
Yes,
so
they fit the space. Yeah, that they're allotted basically.
Yeah, so this one kind of ended up in like the attic of some building, and it pretty much grew to the size of of the attic. Like it was giant. But then to capture it, they had to get a cockroach and a tea kettle. And the whole time I'm thinking, what is going on here?
Yeah, like halfway through, I finally figured out where he was going with it.
Okay.
Because you had to catch that line about how they grow and shrink.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't catch that line, you were completely out of the loop.
Right.
And you wouldn't get it. Because my first thought was like, okay, what kind of magical spell includes a teapot and a cockroach? But no,
what kind of potion is he making?
Yeah, he was just going for a small container and something that will attract this creature.
Right.
It was just weird how specific he was with it. Like
sure.
I honestly don't think it needed to be a cockroach. I don't think it needed to be a teapot, but that's I guess things he thought they might be able to find.
Yeah, there would be probably a cockroach running around, and maybe he had seen the tea kettle,
sure,
sitting on a table or something in there, or whatever the case is. But it was just awesome to see them bait it with the cockroach, and then that thing just shrink down just small enough to fit inside the tea kettle, put a lid on it, and then there you go. Like this giant, enormous creature that was breaking this building is now contained inside this little thing. So, and that kind of goes in line with Newt's briefcase.
Yeah.
Which I think might have been the star of the movie.
Absolutely. It was a whole nother world down there.
Oh my, man,
or multiple worlds even.
He had like his own just zoo down there inside of his briefcase. And I love how each creature that he had in there had its own habitat built to its liking within like this world that he's created inside his briefcase. It wasn't they weren't like in cages, it was them living in the most comfortable way they possibly can. Obviously, the Thunderbird, was in there, up on a rock, very Mufasa-like. But it needed to spread its wings. It needed to get out and fly. That's why they needed to get to Arizona. But for transportation purposes, I love the notion that each one of these animals had its own area to kind of freely roam around and enjoy for its own liking.
Yeah, and I like that these areas aren't disturbed when he's carrying the case around.
Right.
Like that's the thing that boggles my mind, because I like to think of myself as a fairly logical person, and so when you tell me okay, there's another world down there, I've accepted that in Harry Potter we have things that are bigger on the inside, but then you get to thinking about them being mobile, and like most of the objects or places we've seen that are bigger on the inside don't change orientation.
Right.
So that's the part that is hardest for me to think about and think about logically, because that can't happen. That wouldn't.
Right.
It's magic.
Yeah, and honestly, they would have been just fine in that briefcase all along if it wasn't for the little Niffler just having to squeeze out and get out and find shiny things. He's a troublemaker of the group.
Yep. Can never have enough shiny things.
No, that's true.
Because you saw his habitat down there. Like, there are plenty of shiny things.
He was very well off down there, but
It was Scrooge McDuck's vault.
pretty much. Also, there's the weird sloth-like creature that would turn invisible.
Yeah.
And that was one of the creatures that they're trying to track down that Newt knew he was going to have a hard time finding because he was invisible.
Yeah.
Like, when he had to break the news to him,
How
like,
do you find?
yeah, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
But it turns out like that creature was guarding the giant snake dragon thing, babysitting it, looking over it.
Yes.
Very adorable. But yeah, just all the beasts, Matt. All the beasts were just so good. So and my favorite part about them is how much Newt genuinely loved them and cared for them, and his entire outlook on life was, these are beautiful creatures. We don't fully understand most of them. We don't fully know what they're capable of, but we shouldn't be killing them because we don't understand them. We should be protecting them. We should be studying them. We should be learning from them, because there's a lot of good that could come from them if we give them the chance to let them show us what they could do for us,
Yeah, and that's like his whole purpose is like he's found this problem, and so he's out there not only trying to save the animals but trying to learn more about them so he can teach other people about them and not have to be so scared of them.
Right. And each time we were talking about that in the movie, I kept thinking about my boy Hagrid and how much he loves his pets and his animals. And
Sure.
Hagrid's a very scaled back version of Newt, I think. Newt is willing to go out and sacrifice himself to save these animals, to care for them, to fight for them. Like, Hagrid loves them, but like, that's not his life's purpose, I don't think. But he's not trying to learn from them. He just appreciates them.
One of the biggest differences is level of education.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because Newt is a fully qualified wizard.
Right.
And so he has the ability to go out and do these things and travel from place to place and track down these animals. Mm-hmm. Whereas Hagrid, he is very limited in his magical ability, and so he's dealing with the magical world as best he can.
Right.
Which taking care of animals he can do. Mm-hmm. But actually, tracking them down and trapping them, that would be much more difficult for him.
Sure. He just wins them in poker games.
Yes.
Newt, went to the finest wizarding institute there is, Hogwarts, of course.
Yes.
That was a very necessary line, I think.
Absolutely.
Another thing I picked up is Dumbledore.
Okay.
Being in this movie. Not directly.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever seen in this movie.
No. But he was mentioned.
Mentioned, definitely.
The professor who encouraged and allowed Newt to continue on his studies. People questioned why this Professor Dumbledore would allow this type of thing, and
yep.
Wasn't really explained, but it was like, made me start thinking a little bit, like Dumbledore goes way back here, doesn't he, with Hogwarts?
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's been up to no good for a while there, so.
Well, I mean, as far as we've been in the series, we know that 50 years ago, from where we currently are in the series, he was still a professor.
Right.
When he taught Tom Riddle. Mm-hmm. And so this is that was roughly, I think we determined, like the 1940s. Mm-hmm. So this is only like 20 years before that.
Right. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was just nice to have that reference that I could be familiar with, and I don't know to the extent of it. I don't know how much more we learn about Dumbledore over the next few books or whatnot, but it kind of reinforced the notion that he's always kind of been going against the norm when it comes to defending people that he believes in.
He's definitely one of a kind.
He's not afraid to stick up for people even when everybody else is firmly on the belief of the other side of the coin. So
yeah,
I think that will be a reoccurring theme in our journeys, Matt.
Yep.
There's also a story that takes place in this movie.
It's true.
And somehow they fit a story in this with all this other stuff.
And I'm going to stop you right there. I think this is as good as time as any. Because to be perfectly honest, as I sat down and watched this movie, about the first half of it, I actually pulled out my phone to check the time when I got to this turning point, if you will. And it was literally about halfway through the movie. I was really disappointed with the first half of the movie.
Really?
Yeah. Like, as good as it was, it didn't really, in my opinion, get into the main story that we were getting to, like the main plot that we're going to be talking about. Like it didn't get into any of that. It was, I understand they wanted to set up these characters and stuff, but it was just, like you said, Dan Fogler, Jacob, it had a lot of his type of humor in it.
Yeah.
And it was all very physical, very slapstick type of humor. And like that, to me, it felt like that's all it was.
Okay.
And yes, we got introductions to some of the beasts, but I think there's also other ways we could have gone about that.
Sure.
Instead of Jacob stumbling over them.
Yeah, that's possible. I guess I went in not expecting there to be more of a story than just us being introduced to Newt and his beasts and whatnot.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting the actual like main story that transpired, which didn't really start kicking in until the second half of the movie.
Yeah.
So you might have been looking for that and expecting it and wanting that, where I was like, I want to see more animals. I want.
Well, I think it didn't help that right at the beginning of the film, we got all these like posters and paraphernalia and newspaper articles about Grindelwald. It's like, oh, he's he's back, he's wreaking havoc all over the nation and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, and then we jump into Jacob, and and we spent the next hour and a half there, and it's like, okay, what are you doing?
I just figured that was going to be a subplot more than the main story part of it. So,
well, I mean, I'll tell you now, if you haven't figured it out already, Grindelwald is the name that popped up.
Okay. I suspected that.
Yeah, that's the big name that we didn't know about until like a week before the movie, and then it popped up when people were starting to, like, I think when people saw it to review it, basically.
Okay.
That's when we found out about it, and it's like, oh, there is more of a connection than we thought.
So that made you nervous.
Yeah, because Grindelwald definitely plays a role going forward into what we know, right? So, I'm not going to say too much more than that.
Yeah,
everybody else knows how it fits in.
Well, I know he's a dark wizard. I mean, obviously, I could make some connections as to the characters I already know about. There's not too many dark wizards out there, and we all know where they came from anyway. So, just saying, Matt. Just saying. Did you know Johnny Depp was going to be in this movie?
I heard that just about. I had heard rumors that he made a cameo. I didn't know like there were rumors that he was going to be Grindelwald because like they're like, okay, he makes a cameo and we just found out like we get the back of his head. Okay.
Right.
Like I honestly didn't expect to see his face in this movie. I thought it's like someone like saw his name in the credits then at the end and it's like, oh, that was the back of the head we saw.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that he actually came out at the end, then it's like, oh, okay.
It freaked me out. I'm sitting there and I'm just staring at him, and I'm like, okay, it's not Colin Farrell anymore. He's transformed into who into the wizard he actually is here.
Yep.
And I was just staring at him like, that man looks so familiar. And then we left the theater and I looked at Val and I said, was that Johnny Depp? And she was like, yeah, of course that was Johnny Depp. I'm like, when did Johnny Depp get into this movie? Like, how'd this happen?
Yeah. How they kept that a secret for so long, I have no idea. But yeah.
I assume that he's going to play a role in future films that they're going to be making.
Well, you do understand that was Grindelwald, right?
Yeah. No, I understand that. But
so yes, that's
not the last time we're going to see him.
No, I fully expect him to be in the future films.
Right. So because of that, it makes sense.
I guess that, and that's what's actually kind of throwing some fans of the series off is like what we know of Grindelwald, and then what happened at the end of this movie doesn't quite line up yet, and it's like, wait, what's going on?
Gotcha.
Like your storyline's not supposed to be over yet.
Sure.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I
mean, if a prisoner could escape from Azkaban, Matt, I have a sneaky suspicion that Grindelwald could escape from the clutches of the MACUSA. I guess it makes sense, like that they would have a very reputable actor play a main character, such as Grindelwald, if that's going to be a main character going forward in future films. Like if it was just a one-off, this is a character and he's going to be on screen for like 10 seconds. Like it would be weird to bring in somebody like Johnny Depp for something like that, you know? Yeah,
but at the same time, like why couldn't have Colin Farrell just kept playing it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I know going into...
Because he's not Clark Kent, Matt. He's not just like put a pair of glasses on and he transforms into somebody else.
Well, you see, and that was the weird part too, is like in the very first scene, you know, they showed us the back of his head and it was, you know, shaved in that particular manner. And then they cut to the back of what's his face, Graves?
Yeah.
Back of his head, and it's like, oh, that's the same haircut there. That's kind of odd. They changed the hair color, but it just seemed too logical at that point.
Right.
It's like, no, that can't be him. Like I just assumed it was like a follower of his, and that's how they signified. It's like, yeah, I'm with him. We have the same haircut.
I was back and forth on Graves the entire film. Like in my heart of hearts, I felt like he was a bad guy, and he was the antagonist of the film.
Yeah.
But like there was a part of me that I'm tired of getting swerved by JK here. And I'm just like, I'm not falling for your tricks anymore, JK. So I was like, okay, he's totally the bad guy because, his relationship with Credence and just how aggressive he is. You could just tell that he had some dark personality traits. But I was just like, I think that's what they want us to think. And then it's not going to be that. So then at the very end, when he's starting to fight for the wizards to like stop hiding, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, we shouldn't be hiding. We shouldn't be, having to cover this up. Like, this is who we are. And like, he almost gave like this like Braveheart speech. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's not the bad guy. Like, he is actually like for the betterment of wizards here. And then it was just like, no, he's totally just like messing with everybody and trying to start this giant war and kill everybody. I was like, oh, you got me. You ended up getting me after I said you weren't going to get me the entire movie.
Yeah, and he said, well, you see, that's where I wouldn't have gone Braveheart with that. I would have gone something more like the Emperor in Star Wars or something like that. He wants to use the power.
See, I didn't see it as a bad thing. Like, I was like, oh, they're embracing. Like, yeah,
well,
I was
yeah,
like, yeah, they shouldn't be hiding. These are wizards, man.
He's putting his spin on it. Yeah, it's when Vader tries to talk Luke into it. It's like, yeah, just let it out. Just use the Force. It's
Sure.
like just let it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, bad things happen when you do that. You got to control it.
Yeah, but then
You
again,
can,
we
you
already
can use it, but it's got to be controlled.
we knew Vader was killing tons of people with, like, I mean, we saw them blow up planets and that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm not falling for your spin, Vader.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same idea that he's going after.
Yeah, I guess when I heard it, I was like starting to like cheer for him. I'm like, yeah, yeah, wizards, they should definitely stop hiding. Like, you guys are, far superior than us no mages. You shouldn't be bowing to us and hiding and covering up. Like, yeah, you should absolutely be. And I was like, oh, no, that's bad.
But yeah, that thing. Fast forward to 70 years in the future, that
right,
and they're still relatively hiding.
right. So that's why I thought somebody else
refer to it as hiding, but they want to keep their kind of secret.
and that's why I kind of thought somebody was going to like reveal themselves as the true antagonist and like kill him or shut him down because
he was going to be our savior.
Yeah,
and so
that's what I was expecting. And it's like, no, that's like the rug got pulled out from under me so quickly. JK, you did it again. Credence.
Yes.
What a fascinating character. How did you feel about Credence?
He's the type of character who bothers me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That like Newt bothers a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I personally love him.
Yeah.
It might be because I can relate to him a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But Credence, on the other hand, I don't know whether it's just his mannerisms or his personality or what exactly it is, but he bothers me a lot more.
Yeah. Now, did you think that he was going to be the kid that they were looking for the entire time?
No.
Okay.
No.
You on full belief that it was his sister?
Modesty, yeah.
Modesty, the little girl?
Yeah, the one who was playing hopscotch and chanting about killing witches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he found a wand under her bed and like looking back, it's like, God, that was such a swerve. Like, she was playing us like this is what she was doing. Like, she's like distracting us with graves.
I'm gonna get you over here so you won't notice this time over here.
3-card Monty that JK is playing with us.
Yeah. But yeah, the wand under the bed in particular, like that one really, like I still have trouble figuring that one out. It's like, why did she have a wand? What was it actually her wand,
Mm-hmm.
or what was going on there? Like,
Right.
I honestly want to know more about the wand and why it was there.
Well, I wonder if she isn't also of the magical persuasion.
But wasn't there? Well, I believe adoptive mother.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't she the anti-magic lady?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
But they had magical parents. Modesty and Credence.
Why is she all of a sudden adopting all these magical people if she's anti-magic?
Maybe she didn't know.
It'd be a weird coincidence to get multiple.
Well, I mean, if Modesty and Credence are actual blood brother and sister.
Well, there was a third one they had too, right? Yeah, Chesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
Were they all of the same family?
I kind of that's kind of how I took it. As she took them in, their parents were magical. They died or were killed or whatever the case is. But she didn't think that she was, in her head, she was saving them from the magical world, thinking that they weren't also magical. And Credence was, holding that in. He was, resisting showing any sort of signs of magic, but I wonder if modesty has something also.
Sure.
Because she had that wand. Is she practicing magic? It just, I think there's more to her, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I kind of have a feeling we could see more of her.
Yeah.
Like JK has at least announced behind the scenes more details about the American school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figure we kind of have to get there at some point.
Right.
Otherwise, why bother telling us so much about it?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if maybe some of these kids will show up there again.
Right. Like, are they going to be students there?
I think that the story we're following is definitely going to focus more around the adults, and that's the big difference between Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Is Harry Potter focuses on the kids, Fantastic Beasts focuses on the adults.
Right.
For the most part, fully trained wizards.
Sure. But I mean, they could transition, to film into something else.
Definitely. I mean, we know we have 4 more movies coming, so.
I mean, I can think of a couple great professors.
Yep.
So Credence, the character was definitely creepy. Like, kind of made me anxious watching him. Definitely evoked a lot of empathy. Especially like his coming out party, where the big reveal that he had been hiding his magical abilities and whatnot. For me, the weirdest thing about Credence is the actor that plays him is going to be playing the Flash in the Justice League film.
Okay, did not know that.
And I'm having a hard time unwrapping the actor from the character, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, I've went back and I've watched the trailer that was released for Justice League, where it shows the Flash talking to Bruce Wayne, and it's like I see him now, and I'm like, oh my god, like you are Credence. Like, this is I'm having a hard time separating this right now, because like we may never see Credence again. I mean, theoretically, he's dead. He's eliminated from existence, it seemed to be. I don't know how all that stuff works once you get destroyed in the manner he did, but probably safe to say we don't see Credence again. So, he could move on to bigger and better things and be the Flash and be known for the Flash for the rest of his career. But seeing him as Credence in this, like, it was such a unique role that it's going to be a character that will not be easily forgotten going forward.
Sure.
Man. Okay. One thing that I have some serious questions about. Okay. And you're not going to be able to answer them because they weren't answered in the movie, and I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's not lore that I know of. Like, they're kind of making this up as they go, I think. But Newt's estranged former love.
Okay.
Lita Lestrange.
Yes.
Is that a character we know?
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Another connection that we didn't necessarily know going in.
Okay.
It was a surprise to me for sure. Lita Lestrange. No, we don't know.
Okay.
But the name Lestrange. We definitely know.
Comes back up, huh?
Yeah, we know of a couple of members, either of the Lestrange family or closely related to the Lestrange family.
Okay.
You don't necessarily know them yet, but we will be getting to them. And yeah, it the comments made in Fantastic Beasts definitely fit in with what we know.
Okay.
But leaves us wondering a lot too, like how closely is this going to be tied in?
Okay.
Because yeah, it was kind of weird, like, because that was another name they really only like mentioned once.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, Did you just say what I think you said?
Sure. And Newt was
And
not wanting to talk about her.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't want to talk about it, and like, come on, do it a little more. We want to know what's going on here.
Okay.
But yeah, that is definitely a name that perked up a lot of ears.
Okay. That's interesting because I caught on it too, but I was more interested in like why he wasn't wanting to talk about it, like what happened, why there was even this like love interest even mentioned at all. Like I didn't think it was necessary to Newt's character to have like this
not necessary
love.
to Newt's character necessarily, but well, actually it
Yes,
probably will
like,
play it will play to his character, definitely.
I mean definitely with like how he interacted with like Tina, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that could have been just chalked up to his social awkwardness, you know.
Yeah, but dropping the strange name in there, that threw a curveball.
So they were in love when they were at Hogwarts.
That's what it sounded like. Yep.
Betrayed his trust in some way.
Yeah.
And he still carries her picture around. So I don't know what's going on there, but I definitely want to know more. And it sounds like as I continue to read the Harry Potter franchise, I'm going to be even more interested in it.
I would think so.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think do you think they come back? Do you think Newt comes back to America?
That's a good question, because he kind of did what he came to do, and he's gonna finish his book. And then, I mean,
I guess he did imply that he was going to personally deliver it, right?
Yeah, he would like to come back.
Yeah.
When that is and how much more we see of him,
sure,
it's hard to say at this point,
right?
Because like Fantastic Beasts was obviously just a jumping point for the new franchise,
right?
It's like this is where we're going to start. We got everything going now. Now we can go off in this. Like, I really want to know, like, it's going to be weird because the first series, we had 7 films and they all start, Harry Potter and the.
Yeah, right.
And so I like, what is the next movie going to be called?
Sure.
How are they going to be tied? Like, they're not going to sound like a trilogy.
Right.
By any means, I don't think. Like, it's not going to be Fantastic Beasts and where we put them.
And where we lost them.
I don't know how that's good. Like, I think each film almost needs to have an individual name.
Right.
But
you have to have that connection somehow.
We don't have any way of connecting them because we don't have that title character. We don't have a character that is necessarily going to be in all the films.
Right.
It's really weird, and the fact that there's like 5 movies, like it's not a trilogy either. It's like,
right.
I like Lord of the Rings kind of gets away with it,
sure,
because it's like they have that Lord of the Rings title to go over everything. Star Wars, they have that title to go over everything. Right. Even though, maybe we'll come up with something. Maybe this is going to be the Fantastic Beasts series.
Right.
Even though that's not in all the titles, because like when Star Wars came out, it was A New Hope.
Right. Exactly.
I think the same thing happened in Indiana Jones. It was Raiders of the Lost Ark. It wasn't Indiana Jones until they came out with sequels.
Right.
So I guess there's room for that yet, but
sure.
I that's got me really curious. Just everybody's going to be itching for it just to get an idea of what the next film is actually going to be about. Right. I think where we're going next,
because now they're at the point, or correct me if I'm wrong, now they're going to be making movies that aren't based on books for the first time.
Yeah, for the most part, I guess. Like she's built this world. I think one of the biggest things she's done is that in the time since writing the books and the movies of Harry Potter, like she's gone back and with the Pottermore website, given so much background to this world. Like she's just kept building this world the entire time.
Sure.
And so there is a lot of stuff that's built already that people may know.
Okay.
But it hasn't necessarily been in any book.
Okay.
So some of that could be worked in. Like we said, we already have some connections between what we know and what she's introduced in this film. That, yeah, you kind of need to fill those gaps. And we know some of it. It hasn't fully been covered. She can expand on what we know.
Right.
And that could be part of a film. So it's kind of in a book, but kind of not. But for the most part, I think you would be correct in saying that, yeah, this is a film not based on a book, and it's going to be brand new to everybody.
Kind of unprecedented for this entire franchise.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, when you think about it, like this movie already, a large portion of it wasn't really based on the book.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying, the Fantastic Beasts book, we know it was introduced to us as a textbook, and then it was a list of beasts and information about them. It didn't have anything about Jacob in it. It didn't have anything about Tina. It didn't have anything about. The book that we knew didn't have anything about Grindelwald in it.
Right. Okay.
So she took the title, she took the character, and what his purpose was. That much we kind of knew about, and expanded on that.
Sure. Well, I want more now.
Yep.
I cannot wait for this movie to come out on Blu-ray. I'm going to watch it over and over again.
Oh yeah. I keep telling myself I need to go back to the theater. I think we found out our theater has like $5 Tuesdays or something like that.
Oh yeah, take advantage of that.
Yep. Sounds good to me. Know what I'm doing every Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep. So I absolutely love the film for so many different reasons. My inherent connection to Newt, the beasts, and just the entire world that was built around them, and the different little stories that they were telling. I really enjoyed. And again, I still have the overwhelming sense of I just love being a part of this along with everybody else. I don't feel like I'm catching up when I'm watching this movie. You know, I am enjoying it for the first time in the same weekend that you're enjoying it for the first time. And that's cool. That's I'm not going to have many of these little victories, so I have to cling on to them as tightly as I can, you know?
We'll get you there.
Yeah. Slowly but surely, Matt. So that's my thoughts on Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I'm definitely curious what you guys out there listening, what you thought of the film. Did you love it as much as we did? What did you like? What did you not like? What little things did you catch that maybe we missed? Write in, let us know. We could definitely spend some time reading some emails as far as like reader or listener reaction to Fantastic Beasts. You know, we're just two guys that love the movie. You may have different opinions out there, so if we get enough emails, maybe we could do another Butterbeer Banter on just the audience's, our community's reactions.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be up for it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what everybody else thought, because wide range of opinions, I think, you know, I've seen reviews as low as, not numbered, but like, it was a horrible film that had no soul and bastardized the Harry Potter franchise and people's love for Harry Potter just to make money. Like, I saw that opinion out there on the internet, and I don't know really how that actually came to be in that person's head, but so be it. Ranging up to like just sheer aesthetic and overwhelming love for it like myself. So you out there listening, write in, let us know what you thought of Fantastic Beasts. Like I said, what you liked, what you didn't like, what your favorite characters were, what your favorite beasts were, any future theories that could possibly not be spoilers for me based on things that you may know that I may not know. Matt will have to suss those out as best as possible, because I'm sure people are making some connections to it that I'm not even aware of yet. So it could be fun though. So if we get enough of those, we'll see what we could do.
Yeah, definitely.
Other than that though, this has been a fantastic Butterbeer Banter episode. Much longer than we anticipated, but I feel like we covered the movie as best as we possibly could, as much as what it deserved, for sure. So we hope you enjoyed this little spin-off podcast, a little something for you guys to listen to in between our weekly readings of Harry Potter. For myself, you could find me on Twitter at The Noise with a Y. Also, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. And if you're listening to this early, before it's released on iTunes, you're doing so through Patreon, which we have set up in order to help with the cost of running the show. Also to do more giveaways, to do more great things for you guys out there, the audience, the community. Basically build on what we're doing here at Tales from Godric's Hollow. So if you'd like to support us in what we do, you could do so over at Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Again, one of the reward tiers is getting Butterbeer Banter earlier than everybody else. So, if that's your cup of tea, then drink up, my friends. Drink up. Matt, where can people find you at?
You can always find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Otherwise, if you want to get a hold of the show for any reason, or keep something private from Josh's eyes, feel free to email me at talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Yeah. And with that being said, this has been round 2 of Butterbeer Banter. Until next time, cheers. Nomadge out.
Mischief managed.